On 10th March, Indian government has approved extension of India's largest rural infra initiative called Jal Jeevan Mission 2.0. The goal is simple: provide safe drinking water to every rural household in India through tap connections. By the way, this is not the first time government has announced this mission. We have already seen Jal Jeevan Mission 1.0 launched in 2019. So the question is, why has the government launched Jal Jeevan Mission 2.0? In this mission, government needs to build an entire water supply ecosystem across thousands of villages. And that requires laying lakhs of kilometers of water pipelines, plumbing stations, storage infra, and water treatment plant. So the question is, which companies would benefit in the water supply ecosystem? Also, please note that while it looks like a great opportunity, there are certain risks that you need to keep in mind. Because I've personally seen this cycle where water companies created massive wealth during 2020 to 22 phase, and where many companies jumped 8 to 10 times from COVID lows, but then they fell down badly. So it's very important to understand why water related companies jumped exponentially during COVID phase and why they tanked badly after that. Hence, in this video, we'll discuss what exactly is Jal Jeevan Mission, key beneficiary of Jal Jeevan Mission, and key risk before investing your money. Alright, let's get started. So Jal Jeevan Mission is India's largest rural infra program aimed at providing safe drinking water through tap connection to every rural household. The idea is simple. Instead of villagers walking long distance to fetch water from wells, ponds, hand pump, government want water to reach directly to every home through pipeline. This program was announced on 15th August 2019 and the goal was to provide tap water to every rural household in India by 2024. So the mission focuses on building the entire water supply ecosystem, including water source development, water treatment plant, storage tanks and reservoir, pumping station, thousands of kilometers of pipeline and household tap connection. At that time, the situation in rural India was quite poor. Total rural household were around 19 crore, but tap water was accessible to only 3.23 crore people. That means more than 80% of rural India was dependent on wells, hand pumps, pond, river and so on. With this mission, the number of rural households from tap water connection increased from 3.23 crore household in 2019 to over 15 crore household. Basically, 80% of households receive tap water. Please note that 20% households still do not have access to tap water. Hence, government has extended this Jal Jeevan Mission until 2028 with a massive 8.69 lakh crore total outlay. Please note that this entire outlay is not a complete fresh allocation. When the mission was launched in 2019, the total outlay was 3.6 lakh crore. Central government was around 2.08 lakh crore and remaining was state government. Now, two things happened in last 6 years. First is massive expansion in tap water coverage. But even though 80% coverage has been achieved, some states are still lagging and government want to focus on maintenance of water infra, water quality monitoring as well as sustainable water sources. Second thing happened is the cost went up significantly. Prices like steel, they have exponentially increased. So most of the central allocation has already been utilized. Now the government has extended this mission to 28 with a revised outlay which is around total of 8.69 lakh crore, where central government has a share of around 3.6 lakh crore and remaining would come from state and other source. So the incremental spending opportunity in Jal Jeevan Mission 2.0 is roughly around 5 lakh crore. But this will be spread across several years and shared between state and center. Now let's understand which companies can benefit from this Jal Jeevan Mission 2.0. So before we proceed further, we have a partner for this video. It's Lemon. Lemon is trying to solve a very genuine problem in stock market. When someone starts trading with a small capital, even if they manage to make some profit, a big part of it goes to brokerage charges. Just to share some idea, on average, many traders end up paying around 7 to 8,000 rupees every month just in brokerage. And that is roughly around 40-50,000 a year. But Lemon is offering an infinity plan where you can place unlimited orders with zero brokerage and there are no AMC charges either. On top of that, you get access to powerful trading features like ultra fast scalper mode, more than 100 premium indicators, professional trading tools and so on. And the best part, you also get dedicated WhatsApp support. So the regular price of this infinity plan is $14.99 a month. But if you open a Lemon account using my link, you'll get it for just $199 a month and your account opening charges will be completely free. For more details, you can explore the link in the pinned comment. Okay, moving on, the first segment to benefit from Jal Jeevan Mission 2.0 is pipe manufacture. In this mission, the largest component of spending actually goes into pipeline because government has to build lakhs of kilometers of distribution network to take water from treatment plants to villages and finally to individual homes. So naturally, pipe manufacturers become one of the biggest beneficiary of this theme. Now there are two categories of pipe. First is large steel pipe that are used to transport water over long distance. Second is your PVC and HDPE pipe that are used for village level distribution network and household connection. Within PVC and HDPE category, you have got companies like Astral. While Astral is widely known for plumbing pipes in housing, it also manufactures infra pipes used in water supply and drainage system, which can benefit from increased government spending on rural water infra. Then you have Phenolics Industry, which is one of India's largest PVC pipe manufacturer. Likewise, you have Prince Pipe, Apollo Pipe, that are also important players in plastic pipe segment. Within steel segment, you have got companies like JTL Industry. Then second category is pump and water equipment. Every large water supply system requires a combination of pump, motor, valve to move water from source to storage tank and eventually to household. This entire process relies heavily on industrial pumping system, which makes pump manufacturer an important part of ecosystem. So one of the key players in this space is Kirloskar Brother, which has decades of experience in manufacturing large industrial pumps that are used in municipal water supply, irrigation projects and dams. Another important beneficiary could be Shakti Pump, which specializes in energy efficient and solar powered pumps. As rural water supply network expand, particularly in area where electricity availability can be inconsistent, then third category is EPC or water infra contractor. While pipe and pump manufacturers supply component, the actual execution of Jal Jeevan Mission project is handled by water EPC company. Their work typically include building water treatment plant, laying large trunk pipeline, constructing reservoirs and storage tank, installing pumping station and creating the distribution network that finally connects water to household. But the catch is, these EPC companies are broadly diversified. For instance, you have got NCC Limited, that is around 10% of revenue coming from water related project. Then you also have Kalpatru, KC International that also have presence in water supply network, but they are predominantly power transmission company. Then you of course have L&T that has huge presence in water segment, but since it's a massive conglomerate, water contribute very small part of its overall revenue. Then there's a microcap company called Vishnu Prakash Ponglia that has more than 50% exposure in water and sanitation program. So it can be a strong beneficiary. Likewise, there's one more company, Indian Hume Pipe, that has large exposure to water related project. The only catch is it does not share quarterly update and does not conduct the con calls. Then fourth category to benefit is water treatment company. So before water is supplied to household, it must go through filtration, purification and treatment system to ensure it meets the safety standard. A good example within this segment is Vatek Vabag that specializes in water and wastewater treatment infra across municipal and industrial projects. Now that we have discussed the opportunity and key players that can benefit from Jal Jeevan Mission, it's very important to look at the key risk. So let's discuss it. Okay, the first risk is that these water pipe and EPC business typically don't have a very strong moat. In the pipe industry, for example, there are multiple players like Supreme Industry, Astral, Phenolics, Prince Pipe, but their product itself is relatively commoditized, which means pricing power is limited and competition can be intense. Then another major risk is raw material volatility. So these plastic pipes are made from PVC or CPVC, which are derived from crude oil. So when crude oil price moves sharply, raw material costs also fluctuate. If companies are unable to pass on these cost increase immediately, their margins can get compressed. So we have actually seen a very good example of this upcycle and downcycle in the past. During 2020 to 22 period, many pipe companies created significant wealth for investors as demand for housing, agriculture and infra projects got surged. This resulted in very strong volume growth for pipe manufacturer. Also, PVC prices fell down sharply after the COVID shock in 2020. So during that phase, raw material costs for pipe companies fell down significantly. That resulted in sharp margin expansion. Just look at example. Astral margin expanded from 17 to 20% and its profit jumped significantly. Likewise, Prince Pipe margin jumped from 14 to 18% and also profit jumped exponentially. But once the cycle normalized and raw material prices increased, PVC companies witnessed sharp decline in margin and profitability. Astral profits are still at 2022 level. Prince Pipe margins tanked badly and so are the profits. As a result, companies like Prince Pipe that once jumped 10 times from COVID lows corrected nearly 70% from highs. Apollo Pipe has same story. Crazy jump in share price during margin expansion phase that resulted in PE re-rating, and when the margin fell and earning tanked, stock price tanked. Astral also jumped significantly but later corrected around 50%. Although there is a good recovery from the lows. Likewise, water pump companies like Shakti Pump witnessed massive growth but later it tanked badly. Also similar risk exists with EPC companies like NCC, Kalpataru and so on. NCC has seen sharp rise in massive valuation re-rating, but later stock fell down significantly with valuation de-rating. Please note that EPC business also operate on thin margin and there are risks like delay in project execution, cost overrun or working capital stress that can impact the profitability. So while Jal Jeevan Mission may create large revenue possibility, you should ask three important questions. First question is, how much Jal Jeevan 2.0 would be reflected in terms of revenue growth? Here please note that not every company would have direct impact of Jal Jeevan related order. Some may have higher exposure to water project and government order, while some may have lower exposure. We have already covered some important companies that you should track to identify which company would exactly benefit how much from this mission. Second question is, how will the margins behave? For that, you need to track the raw material prices as these water companies' margins are sensitive to raw material price. Please note that the most important raw material for PVC company is resin, and it's basically produced from petrochemical feedstock that ultimately originate from crude oil or natural gas. Because of this linkage, when crude oil prices move sharply, the cost of producing these petrochemical intermediates also changes. That eventually affects the resin prices. At the moment, crude oil is extremely volatile, so it's difficult to really gauge the impact on margin level. Then third important question is, how comfortable is the valuation? During 2020 to 22 upcycle, all three factors were in favor of these water companies. Revenue growth was sharp, margins were expanding, and the starting valuations were cheap that resulted in re-rating. So today if this government initiative result in high order book that eventually gets reflected in revenue growth and margin either remains stable or expand, then valuation can re-rate and stock price can jump. But if the revenue growth remains low and margin contract due to raw material cost and then earning fall, then you won't see good returns. Now if you look at valuation, if you simply look at PE ratio, you might not get a right picture for many company. For instance, in spite of 70% correction from peak, Prince Pipe command a high PE. Astral PE also look very high. Here please note that you can't simply look at PE ratio because the earning growth for many companies have been subdued in last few years. You should better look at price to sale or even price to book. For instance, although Astral PE ratio may look very high, its price to book is much below its historical median. Likewise, price to sale is also down from median. Although on absolute basis, Astral valuations are still elevated. Likewise, Prince Pipe PE looks high, but its price to sale is down significantly. And so is price to book. So before investing your money, do compare the current price to sale and price to book with last 3 to 5 years of historical median. In general, the valuations are comfortable for these companies as there's already a sharp de-rating that has happened after the last bull run. Now it's a matter of growth in order book and how it gets reflected in revenue. And of course, you need to closely track the raw material prices and its impact on water companies' margin and eventually on earning growth. Overall, if we conclude, this extension of Jal Jeevan Mission with an outlay of 8.69 lakh crore clearly shows that government is committed to solving one of India's most basic infra problem, that is access to clean water in rural areas. The scale of this program is massive. However, as we've discussed, these water related businesses are not always simple buy and forget story. Majority of them operate in a competitive and deeply cyclical industry where raw material prices, execution risk and working capital requirement can significantly impact the profitability. We have already seen how this upcycle has played out during 2020 to 22 period and then witnessed sharp correction. That's why it becomes important to focus not just on the theme but also on three key factors: revenue visibility, margin stability and valuation. If companies start reporting strong order book growth that eventually translate into consistent revenue growth while margins remain stable, then market can again re-rate these businesses over time. But if that story does not play out, water-related companies can continue to remain sluggish. So this is it for this video. Hope you'll find it useful. Also, if you're looking for a good brokerage house that can save good money in trading, do explore Lemon app. Link I'll provide in the pinned comment. I'll see you next video. Till then, take care.